guess. Everybody ready? Well, welcome. Appreciate you coming. Today I submit to the people of South Carolina my executive budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. As you might suspect, South Carolina's booming economy has once again created a record budget surplus. This year totaling over $1.64 billion in unexpected revenue. So it should come as no surprise that in 2023 was once again a successful year for economic development and investment in our state. Last year, we announced 81 projects that will create over 14,120 new jobs with $9.21 billion in new capital investment. Turn it on. Thank you, Kennard. Some of these included that we announced was Scout Motors, as you know, in Richland County out by Blythewood. That's $2 billion and 4,000 jobs. Albemarle Corporation, $1.3 billion and over 300 jobs in Chester County. AESC, that's $810 million and 450 jobs in Florence County. And in connection with that, you might remember that BMW announced an expansion as well. The ZF Group, which is $500 million and 400 jobs in Lawrence County, and EVAC Magnetics, $500 million and 300 jobs in Sumter County. And I think that's a unique industry there. We might be the only one in this hemisphere, I think the man said. Just since 2017, we've announced over $36.4 billion in new investments and 86,378 new jobs. Every day, employers are creating new jobs, entrepreneurs are opening up businesses, and companies are deciding to locate in South Carolina. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, South Carolina led the nation in population growth in the year 2023, and we've seen that all over the state. Additionally, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economics Analysis, our state's personal income growth ranked second among all states at 4.9% through the third quarter of 2023. We were a close second. Texas was 5.2, and others, our neighbors, Georgia 3.1, North Carolina 3.1, and Georgia 3.0. But we've seen that expansion in personal growth all over the state. So South Carolina has become a national leader in the advanced manufacturing arena, leading the way in the new and innovative electric vehicle and battery manufacturing industry right now. Our state is home to 4 major electric vehicle manufacturers, major international EV battery manufacturers, the nation's largest EV battery recycling facility, and many other industries in the electric vehicle manufacturing supply chain, and there are more to come. No endeavor illustrates our state's leadership better than SC Nexus for Advanced Resilient Energy. We call it SC Nexus. That's a consortium developed by the South Carolina Department of Commerce. This consortium was developed in collaboration with our research universities, institutions of higher education, with our technical colleges, the state agencies, the Savannah River National Lab, with which we have a close relationship, and economic development nonprofits and a lot of private businesses. SC Nexus is the culmination of groundwork laid in prior years through the collaborative private-public initiatives. Examples of this cooperative spirit include the state's Electric Vehicle Working Group. You may remember that we announced in October of 2022 in Greenville. It created a one-stop shop to recruit and assist with electric vehicle investment and manufacturing in the state. The Department of Transportation, Commerce, Department of Workforce, the Office of Regulatory Staff, DHEC, and I think Department of Motor Vehicles. Another such adventure is the Power SC, Energy Resources and Economic Development Interagency Working Group. That's why we just call it Power SC. This working group, also created by executive order, leads the effort to coordinate the state's energy stakeholders efforts to ensure South Carolina has the energy capacity to meet the needs of the future. Everything we do, all of this expansion, one way or another, is based on electricity. We have to have plenty of it, and we have to be able to get it everywhere it needs to be. That group has a lot of the same people and same agencies in it as the EV group, but also has the Office of Resilience and Labor Licensing and Regulation. Recently, South Carolina Nexus received the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration's designation as one of the 31 regional technology and innovation hubs. They call them tech hubs, which allows SC Nexus to apply for a lot of federal funding. And now this was a competition all over the country, and they weren't going to pick but 31 projects all around the country, and we have been so designated. We put the full court press. Senator Graham was helping, the president of the universities was helping, Representative Clyburn was helping, all our congressional delegation, and we went to Washington and made our case, and also later had a conference with Commerce Secretary Lisa Raimondo, and later we received the news that we had been so designated in the first round. The executive budget recommends $15 million to support SC Nexus and to serve as the state match as required to be eligible for the Economic Development Association's Phase 2 federal funding, which we're looking forward to. In the workforce arena, the demand for trained EV workforce is outpacing the number of qualified applicants. Manufacturers like BMW, Mercedes-Benz vans, Volvo cars, and Scout Motors will require a highly specialized and trained workforce of almost 20,000 South Carolinians. And they will need that workforce to be trained and on the job within the next few years. To meet this important workforce demand, the executive budget recommends $50 million in funds to create or expand Ready SC EV training institutes at our technical college campuses, and we expect to do that in different parts of the state. State government is in superior fiscal shape, I'm happy to report. We have the largest rainy day reserve fund balance and the lowest amount of general obligation debt than any time in recent memory. Once again, I'm recommending the General Assembly set aside sufficient additional funds into our rainy day fund. I'm asking for $54.3 million so that the fund maintains a balance equal to 10% of the fiscal year 2024-2025 General Appropriations Act as required by law. Until a few years ago, South Carolina had the highest personal income tax rate in the Southeast and the 12th highest in the nation at 7%. No more. 2 years ago, I signed into law the largest tax cut in state history. Accordingly, my executive budget recognizes this year's $99 million scheduled cut to the income tax rate, dropping it to 6.3%. Infrastructure. There's no more infrastructure in need of investment than in our state's roads, bridges, highways, and interstates. The 2023 South Carolina Department of Transportation Annual Accountability Report highlights the need for additional resources to repair, rehabilitate, and rebuild many of the nearly 9,000 bridges on primary and secondary roads across our state. Many of these bridges are 60 or 70, sometimes even 80 years old. Some of them are older than that. Some of them over 90 years old. Too many have been closed, while others are in such a state of disrepair that the required restrictions render them useless for commercial trucking, school buses, fire trucks, and those kind of heavy vehicles needed to serve our increasing population. So I'm recommending $500 million in surplus funds from the Homestead Exemption Fund be appropriated to the South Carolina Department of Transportation for emergency bridge replacement and repairs that will benefit all South Carolinians. On our environment, we know that South Carolina's mountains, beaches, sea islands, lakes, and marshes are among the most beautiful in the nation. That's one reason people come here from all over. This land, our land, is noted by the explorers years ago, centuries ago, for kings and queens as lush, fertile, and brimming with abundance. Ours is an incomparable cultural and environmental. So this year, I'm recommending that $33 million be appropriated to the Conservation Land Bank, the Department of Natural Resources, the Office of Resilience, and the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism for purposes of identifying, preserving culturally or environmentally significant properties, disaster recovery, and flooding mitigation efforts, as well as beach renourishment projects along our coast. Turning to education, 7 years ago, the minimum starting salary of a teacher in South Carolina was $30,113, and the average teacher salary was well below the Southeast average. Today, the minimum starting salary of a teacher in South Carolina is $42,500, and the average teacher salary here in South Carolina now exceeds the Southeastern average. My executive budget proposes increasing the starting teacher salary to $45,000. My goal by 2026 is to have a minimum starting salary of at least $50,000, and I emphasize that is a minimum starting salary, at least $50,000. We want to have the best teachers in the country. This statewide expansion of full-day, 4-year-old kindergarten program has been very successful. Today, 17,437 students are enrolled in the program in public schools, private child care centers, and private schools. We anticipate an additional 2,500 children from low-income households will enroll in the program in the next school year. My executive budget includes $21.1 million to meet this increase in enrollment. In addition, this executive budget provides $30 million for the Education Scholarship Trust Fund. Starting this year, these funds will allow low-income parents to choose the type of environment and instruction that best suits their child's unique needs. As we know, one size does not fit all. Turning to higher education, access and affordability to higher ed for every South Carolinian is essential to ensuring that our state has the trained and skilled workforce to compete for jobs and investment in the future. To address this historic labor crisis affecting key sectors of our South Carolina economy, I'm requesting the General Assembly to invest $95 million in lottery funds for the South Carolina Workforce Industry Needs Scholarships. We call it SC WINS, through the South Carolina Technical College system, and that is not means tested. In the last 3 years, this very successful program has provided over 42,000 South Carolinians with scholarships to cover the tuition at any of our technical colleges to earn a post-secondary or industry credential in high-demand careers like manufacturing, nursing, computer science, information technology, transportation, logistics, or construction. Those are the ones where we instruct the businesses, the industry, to just tell us what they want, and we'll provide those people. We want to encourage people to go online and find out where those jobs are available. The executive budget marks the 5th consecutive year that I've proposed the General Assembly freeze college tuition for in-state students with an appropriation to our institution of higher education of $49.8 million. I'm also asking the Education Oversight Committee, which is a nonpartisan committee composed of legislators, educators, business representatives, to oversee a systemic review of our state's 33 public institutions of higher education. Why? We believe this study will provide an assessment of whether we need to consolidate schools, change programs, or the degrees that are offered in our public colleges and universities. The goal is to make sure we are meeting our state's future workforce needs. Scholarships. Also, propose $80 million in scholarships so that South Carolinians who qualify for federal needs-based financial aid as measured by the federal Pell Grants have sufficient state financial assistance to attend any in-state public college, university, or technical college. Students at private, independent, and historically black colleges and universities will receive an additional $20 million for tuition grants and assistance. That is a total of $100 million. Also, we have some one-time expenses. We recently learned that the Commission on Higher Education had approximately $151.7 million in surplus lottery funds that had not been used for college scholarships. So this executive budget recommends allocating those excess funds for additional need-based grants or to pay for an extra semester of Life, Hope, or Palmetto Fellow scholarships. These one-time funds should incentivize students to complete their undergraduate degree and enter the workforce sooner. We want to get them working as quickly as we can. This executive budget also provides $44 million for deferred maintenance and health and safety upgrades at our 4-year comprehensive institutions, not the research, the 2-year branch campuses of the University of South Carolina, and our technical colleges, of which we have 16. In addition, I'm proposing a $34 million appropriation for campus infrastructure resiliency at the Medical University of South Carolina, a second $70 million installment for the College of Veterinary Medicine at Clemson University, and a $35 million investment for the Health Science Campus at the University of South Carolina. Also, my executive budget proposes $1 million for operations and security for the Anne Frank Center at the University of South Carolina campus, and $1 million for the Center for Civil Rights History and Research, also at the University of South Carolina campus. Excuse me. I'm also asking the General Assembly to continue something we started 2 years ago, and that is to continue funding the Battelle Alliance, which is a collaborative nuclear sciences research partnership between the University of South Carolina, Clemson University, and South Carolina State University, and the Savannah River National Laboratory, with an appropriation of $20 million. And by doing that work in that environment, we can prepare our people and prepare our state and country for the future. Turning to law enforcement, our state law enforcement and criminal justice agencies have begun to stem the tide of personnel loss with recruitment and retention pay raises provided in the previous 2 General Appropriation Acts. But it's not enough. I'm proposing that we build on this momentum by providing an additional $17.8 million for recruitment and retention pay in the next fiscal year. Also, I'm again proposing a $2,000 state income tax credit. That is a state income tax credit for every active law enforcement officer, firefighter, first responder, and emergency medical technician employed by a public entity. Also, my budget maintains a proviso suspending the $10,000 retirement cap for anyone enrolled in the police officer retirement system. This will allow retired officers to return to work and fill existing vacancies. We want to take full advantage of their experience. Placing an armed, certified school resource officer in every school, in every county, all day, every day, has been one of my top priorities as governor. We must keep our children safe, those in the schools safe, and the parents must be assured that they are safe and have confidence in that safety. At my request, the General Assembly began providing funds to hire more resource officers for our state's 1,284 public schools. The grant program has been very successful and has more than doubled the number of officers assigned to a school, going from 406 in 2018 to 1,109 in 2023. It's getting better. I'm recommending an additional $13.4 million appropriation to add an officer in the remaining 175 schools out of that 1,284 who do not have an assigned resource officer. Also, animal fighting, dog fighting. When I was Attorney General, we had a task force, and you may remember we sent to jail a man named Mr. Tant, who was reported as being the second largest dog fighter in the United States. He was convicted and sent to jail. But this is a brutal, ugly, cruel criminal activity in our state and in our society. Law officers estimate that most of the people participating in this barbaric activity have long criminal records. They have an elaborate setup the way they distribute the information about where the fights are going to be, and bets are made, and it's not certain where it's going to be until just the last minute, and it's absolutely horrible. If you saw pictures of it, you'd want to go home and lie down. So we've had enough, and we're going to do more about it than we have before. In September 2022, a SLED agent was dedicated to combating animal fighting and working in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies, and those are typically the county sheriffs and also the U.S. Attorney's Office. Shortly thereafter, the agent helped execute one of the was reputed to be one of the biggest takedowns of a dog fighting operation in South Carolina history, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. This executive budget expands upon this success by recommending $566,286 to hire 3 additional SLED agents dedicated to animal fighting. On restructuring, last year the General Assembly passed a law restructuring the Department of Health and Environmental Control. This executive budget recommends approximately $20 million to support the implementation of this restructuring. This executive budget recommends approximately $95.5 million to be appropriated to the Department of Health and Human Services to meet the inflationary health care provider cost increases related to Medicaid provider services, including primary care physicians, dentists, speech, occupational health, behavioral health professionals, and physical therapists. I'm also recommending an allocation of nearly $10 million to the Department of Mental Health for a partnership with the City of Columbia and Richland County to pilot a comprehensive resource center with wraparound services to reduce homelessness in the Columbia area. Proposed by Mayor Daniel Rickenman, this project is based upon a model used in Houston, Texas, in the metropolitan area, and after a dozen years in Houston, they saw a 64% reduction in homelessness and an astounding 17% decline just in 2023 alone. If this model proves successful here, then it could be replicated in other communities around our state and elsewhere. Our booming economy sometimes puts states' agencies at a disadvantage with private sector. The private sector pays more very often. When we were trying to recruit employees or trying to retain good ones, the private sector is trying to urge them to come work with them. My executive budget provides state agencies with $26.2 million to recruit and retain critical state agency personnel and recommends $104 million for the state health plan to offset inflationary health care and cost increases. This will ensure that there'll be no increase in the premiums for those participants or the employers like school districts, counties, and state agencies. On retirement, again, I propose that the state pension plan be closed to new beneficiaries as of December 31, 2024, and that new employees enroll in the state optional retirement program, which is a defined contribution plan. Another year of inaction on this is just going to make it worse. The unfunded liability in the pension plan will continue to increase, and we cannot continue just to kick this one down the road. So, in conclusion, by thinking big, by being bold, and making these transformative investments in our people and our property, I believe that we will set our state on a course that will provide opportunity for prosperity, success, and happiness for generations of South Carolinians to come. Okay, anybody have a question? Senior correspondent, Joe Bustos.
Governor, in your proposal, there's no across-the-board raise for state employees. Can you explain your thought process on that?
I couldn't hear you say.
There's no across-the-board raise for state.
No, it doesn't. This is more of an incentive program. It's more flexible. Next.
Governor, did you
Yeah.
set aside any funding for the state to participate in the summer EBT food nutrition program? Is the state going to do that?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The summer EBT food nutrition, the child nutrition program, is there funding for the state to participate in that?
Yeah, there is funding for that, yes.
What do you want to see out of this study for higher education?
We want to see if we're doing the best we can with the assets and the people that we have. This is a conversation that has gone on for a number of years. A lot of, some states like North Carolina, for example, they have a board. It's not like our Commission on Higher Education is set up sort of the same, but they have the authority to change things. And we want to be sure that we are providing the right instruction for the students, that we're not overlapping, we're not wasting time or money. Some of our schools are not getting as many students as they would like. And we just want to do the best we can, and we may learn something. We might not learn anything, but I think we'll learn a lot.
Governor, going off that question, the kind of businesses that are coming to South Carolina, does that put more emphasis on technical college degrees for these employees to be ready for?
Well, it does. The technical college system, of which ours is the best in the country, is really at the focal point right now for all kinds of manufacturing. Now, there are a lot of other kind of professions and jobs that are outside of manufacturing, but there's an explosion now, particularly with the supply chain being so fragile and so vulnerable to interruption, as we saw, particularly in the pandemic, and as we're seeing right now with what's going on in the Middle East and the Red Sea and all of that. We have learned that we must be able to depend on ourselves, and that means we need to make more things here and to have a good, strong supply chain. And that's not only is it good for South Carolina, because we have the kind of people that these business leaders from around the world want to hire. They all say so. So we want to put them to work, and that's what the world is calling for right now, and it's also a big part of our national security.
Do you have any more details on the pilot program to reduce homelessness in Columbia? What does that look like, and how did it work?
I don't have the details on the Texas plan. I know Mayor, this is something that Mayor Benjamin discussed, and of course Mayor Rickenman has opened some new doors, and they're building a facility up there close to I-126 to handle this, but this is more comprehensive than that, and we hope it works.
We learned earlier about a $55 million amount that was being set aside to improve some capacity for the Ports Authority around North Charleston. I was just hoping you could offer a few more details on that and what that was going to increase for shipping capacity in that area.
What you say, what,
It was a $55 million amount that was going to be set aside in the proposed budget that we were told about earlier today. It was essentially to buy that old paper mill that's adjacent to the North Charleston ports.
Yeah, I'm aware. Well, you know, we're in a battle already with our port. Our port's in a battle. We hope we'll get a good answer from the Supreme Court about that with the lawsuit. But with that property closing down, with North Charleston growing and trying to get more neighborhoods and diversify North Charleston, we want to put emphasis on that area. I'll have to get you more details on it if you want more than that.
How did the state's rapid population growth influence your priorities in this budget?
Well, we've seen this coming, and we know that just since the time that I've been here, it started before when manufacturers from around the world started started showing a lot of interest. But I'm not surprised at all, particularly after COVID, to see people wanting to come to South Carolina. And you'll notice it is particularly in those places where we use common sense and we didn't close everything down, and those that were closed temporarily, we opened them right back up. We battled with the Biden administration on various mandates that they were requiring. One of them was, you remember, the military. Everybody had to get a vaccine. As a result, a lot of people dropped out. And I don't know if it's because of that, but also you might know that of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force, only the Marines and the Space Force met their recruitment goals this year. So I think we showed South Carolina, that gave us an opportunity to show that South Carolina was a place that values business. We've always been viewed as a state with a very business-friendly atmosphere, business-friendly people, business-friendly legislature. And when the pandemic came, it was clear we were also a place that had a lot of common sense and wanted to keep things moving. And when you combine that with our great natural beauty and all those things that we have, particularly having the Gulf, the heritage, and also the congaree, those were the first two held during the pandemic. People got to see more and more of South Carolina. So we're going to continue to grow. So if we're going to continue to grow, we have people, we have to educate them. And those that are looking for jobs here, you look, in South Carolina, with all these scholarships, with all these programs, with the Department of Employment and Workforce that has a career coach, they have a bus that goes into the rural areas, they have websites. I think one's coming up soon where if you're looking for a job, you just go on there, you can find out what county, what part of the state. We are ready to work. If you don't want a job in South Carolina, you have to go hide in the woods somewhere, because we've got plenty of opportunity for people. So it's because of all those things. Yes, we're going to keep on growing. That is, the Department of Commerce is doing that. Yes, it is. But a part of this growth, as I mentioned, I think, all of it requires electricity. All of manufacturing requires a lot of electricity. You got robots, you got all these producing power. These arc furnaces and all of them, that takes a lot. So we, looking ahead, we see that if we're going to continue doing what we've been doing, continue to grow, we've got to have ample sources of energy. So the purpose of that is to see that we do. And that's why we put all those different groups together to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate to find our way through to having ample electricity and be able to get it out to everybody, just like we're doing with broadband, those things. It's good for health care as well. But we made the decision when we set up SC Nexus, and it was at that time that the availability for these technology and innovation hubs was announced by the Economic Development part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And so those two things just fit right together. And we made the decision that what we were going to seek that federal designation for, and the money that comes with it, involves power, nuclear power, all kinds of power. Other states, some of them submitted multiple applications. We put in one on that because we want to be sure that we have plenty of power. We can get it to the people, that is safe, that is reliable, that is low cost, all of those things, because that's what it's going to take for us to keep expanding.
Time for two more questions. Governor, there were billions worth of requests from agencies, but there's only there's not that much new money as there was in previous years. How difficult was it in settling this budget? Even though the economy is growing, so less new money to play around with.
Joe, have you ever slept in a bed that's the blanket's about a foot too short for you? That's kind of how it is. There's just not enough to go around. But we try to be smart and put it where we think that from our vantage point, where we think it can do the most good. And these things that we've described, you've noticed you got to have education. If these young people coming up, if they go get to the top, we got to start with them at the bottom, and we got to move them in. And so that's why we're putting a lot in that, and we're putting a lot in the manufacturing, the things that are producing the jobs, producing careers, producing money, which solidify families, keep them healthy. All of those things, that's what we're trying to put it where it really counts.
And to build on Joe's question, I was wondering, are there any areas of the budget where we're reducing spending from the last go around?
I'm sure there'll be some that'll be reduced. The legislature and, I mean, there are a lot of projects. It could be some of these won't get funded. Some will probably be, I think some will reduce just every year. But there's always more coming. I mean, there's more that we need to put money into. And as you can see from this, what we have been doing for years is taking care of the education, the economic growth, and our environmental and cultural heritage. Those are the three pillars of our strength, and you have to have them all working. Pull one of those out, it's like a three-legged stool. You take one out, the others will fall.